I like his experience, and I think it is important to learn from him because there are times in sales where you may get stuck, and he's going to share some strategies how to help you get unstuck. So, Ray, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us and to teach us some of your strategies on closing, sales. What do you do when you get stuck, overcoming objections, and things of that nature? So, excited to have you.
Great to be here, Marie. And like I said a minute ago, I always have trouble sharing, and I thought I had it figured, but I haven't figured it yet. But I can tell you this. I'll get started by saying that I, when I first got involved in sales, which would have been about almost 40 years ago, 39 years ago. This year is my 40th anniversary this year. And what happened was I stumbled one day I decided, you know what, I probably need to learn something and improve myself. So I was stumbling around the bookstore one day. Can you see my screen by any chance? Does anybody see my screen?
We see you. We do not see your screen.
Ah, um, that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. I had a half a dozen slides. I'll send them to you, Marie. You can send them out. I'm having a little difficulty. I usually have somebody
Yeah,
running the tech stuff for me. So
yeah.
anyway, I stumbled across.
Listen,
I went to a bookstore and I stumbled across the famous book by Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. And I read the book and I figured out the formula. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I didn't believe I couldn't. I believed it then, but I didn't believe it later on because I met so many people later who said, you know what? I read that book and I never found the formula. And the formula is four things. There's four things and there's four acronyms. DMP, which stands for what is your definite major purpose? PMA, which is a positive mental attitude. And if you add those two things together and you add a work plan, work your plan of action and surround yourself with a mastermind alliance group that reinforces the belief in your system, you're going to have success. I'm not going to tell anybody on the call today, this is what you should do to build your business. You already know. Everybody knows what they should do to build their business. Everybody knows. The problem is, it's not a habit. We don't do it habitually. So we are creatures of habit. And what happens is, we have great intentions, don't we? We go to seminars, make notes. We're gonna do this. We're gonna turn the world upside down. We get back home. What do? We fall into our old habits. So what I like to tell people is like, if you take the time to figure out what your definite major purpose is at this time in the business you're in. I mean, it can change down the road. You might be in a different business, but today, everybody wants to accomplish something. What exactly is it? Write it down, record it, look at it every day until you drill it deep into your subconscious mind. What happens when you do that is you get to the point where you think, eat, breathe, sleep, wake up. It wakes you up because you've got to accomplish this big thing, this definite major purpose. Now, the positive man attitude goes without saying. I'm not going to get right into it, but I mean, come on. If you surround yourself with negative thoughts, negative people, it's going to discourage you. So you got to get the positivity going. You got to have a plan of action, and you got to work the plan of action. Like all of us would probably admit in sales, in our business, what's our downfall? We weren't consistently working the plan of action, but that's the result of not having driven the definite major purpose for why you even started deep, deep, deep. So it makes you work the plan of action. And all of us as human beings, it's kind of like the thing that goes with the human being. What goes with human beings is that we get discouraged. We have feelings. We're emotional. Somebody says something, hurts our feelings. Somebody gives us a no. There's all kinds of stories. I mean, years ago, somebody told me a little secret. Ray, just count the no's up, divide them into the money you made, and that's what each no. That's what you made off of each no. But having a mastermind alliance to help you, encourage you, people that are of like mind, maybe in the same group, maybe not. Like you guys, what you guys have here is a mastermind alliance. You're all in different groups. I can tell you're in different organizations, different groups. but you have this alliance to encourage each other. Is that making sense? You can't hear me, right?
Yes, coming through loud and clear.
Okay, okay. So this is interactive, right? This is interactive. Jump in anytime. So once you have discovered, I can tell you right now, before I leave that Napoleon Hill formula, I'll leave it here in a second. But before I leave it, I would say that if anybody's got trouble in their business, getting it going, they haven't nailed down their definite major purpose. They haven't written it out. They haven't recorded it. They're not sure if that's what it is, and for some people it's easy and some people it's hard. Everybody's different. But once you nail that down and you record it, you read it, and you drive it deep into your subconscious, it'll drive everything else. It'll keep you away from the negative. It'll want you to work your plan of action. Matter of fact, it becomes, wouldn't it be amazing? Just think of this. If you are struggling at all in your business, you want to grow it. Wouldn't it be amazing that all the things you're supposed to do that you're supposed to do, you just do them automatically? You can't wait to do them. That's what understanding your definite major purpose is, and driving it deep in your subconscious will accomplish for you. And it did for me. And when it did that, matter of fact, sometimes when you're in the zone, you say things, you don't even know you say them. I was embarrassed quite a few years ago. I was having coffee with one of my old buddies from back in the day when I first started. And he said, "Ray, do you remember telling me that you're going to take over the town and be the #1 real estate sales guy?" I said, "I didn't say that." He goes, "Yeah." I said, "You got to be kidding me. Who would say something like that?" Well, he says, "You were just having coffee with me and a couple of the guys." I don't remember saying that, but I was definitely my plan. It was so deep in my subconscious, I would even say it. And so the other thing about your definite major purpose is that just because you have one doesn't mean it's going to happen overnight. It probably took me about 4 or 5 years pounding away, working the plan of action before. Actually, in my first year, I made it into the top 10% of all the realtors in my board of realtors, which spread over many towns. First year, top 10%. But it took me 4 years to get into the top 10. And it took me another year or two to become #1. But because I had the definite major purpose, I just kept having idea after idea. And I'll show you some of my ideas just to kind of, you come up with stuff. Because when that definite major purpose takes over your subconscious mind, your mind, by the way, the greatest asset you have is your mind, your brain. I mean, you're gifted. I mean, God's given each of you and each of us stuff He's never given anybody else. So all of a sudden, in your field, you come up with stuff, because your definite major purpose is so driven deep into your system. So what happens is, let's transition. I don't care what business you're in, what sales you're doing, you gotta have good marketing. But again, this is part of working the plan of action, and it's not going to happen consistently unless you get that definite major purpose going. But I'm going to tell you that there's some things people do in marketing today, I just kind of shake my head. Email marketing is still one of the highest, best returning things you could ever do if you're consistent. I own a brokerage. I actually wear 3 hats. I'm co-owner of our brokerage. We have about 167 agents in about 5 locations. I'm a partner. But one of the things we've been doing for the last couple of years, we've done it all along, but we've really improved it the last couple of years. What we've done is we've targeted all our prospects, because when you're in our business, you have to recruit. I think I've got about 2,600 or 2,700 people I've targeted based on criteria, whatever. But these people get an email every week. Plus, the email has a little video clip in it, either from me or my partner. So what we do is we'll meet for a video session 2 or 3 times a year, record a bunch of stuff. My tech guy clips it all up, and we put these little video clips in. Guess what that does? First of all, I doubt any of our competitors have a consistent marketing program by email, #1. And I can just about guarantee if they do, there's no video content. Our open rate is unheard of. It's crazy. So that is great marketing. You know, there's lots of things you can do in marketing. I'm not saying this is the only thing, but don't miss your email marketing. So who are you emailing to?
Ray,
Yes.
there's something wrong with the speaker. All of a sudden, we can't really hear you too well. And I don't know if anyone else is experiencing that, but can you
He's
check
loud
your
and clear
volume or
here.
something?
No, he's completely clear.
Yeah, I hear him okay.
Oh, you okay? Then it's me.
Yeah.
I apologize. I don't
Yeah.
know what happened with my system here. Okay, thank you.
That's okay. I got a sip of coffee in between you making announcements. So, I don't know what you're doing, but do whatever you're doing, but don't miss this database thing, and don't miss the video content, and don't miss the consistency. However, the people you know and the people that are in your database that you would contact if you were being consistent are the smallest group of people you know. The biggest group of people are the people that you don't know that aren't in the database. So this, of course, is the big struggle for most people in sales. Everybody needs new blood. Everybody needs to be adding new names. So then you got to set part of your part of your plan of action is figure out, how do I add a certain number every week? I mean, you know, it's not that hard. If you add 10 a week, do the math. 52 weeks, you've added 500 names. Do the math, or whatever you want to do. You do the math and figure out how can I add names, because you need new names. Now, you know, this part of the business, this is probably the part of the business I train salespeople. This is the part of the business that they struggle with. We call it, you know, it's like prospecting for gold. You know, any prospector that goes to the river with his pen and has to work that gold or work those pebbles, and I've been in places where people are doing that, and I've been in places where they do it with machines and everything, prospecting for gold. It's hard work because you're digging through tons of material to find one nugget, a little piece. And so that happens. I mean, I'm doing a program right now. I'm doing another little business. I'm an entrepreneur. And so I'm doing something on the side. I got a side hustle too. And I have to call a lot of people. And sometimes they're rude and sometimes they're, you know, whatever. And I just go, next, no problem. Matter of fact, one of my buddies last night, he made fun of a little text I sent him. And I took it, wow, he's 100% right. So I took the text that I'd sent him and reworked it, made it better. And I haven't thanked him for it yet, because maybe he's still going to respond to me, but in a little while I'll thank him, because if he hadn't been that critical, I wouldn't have reworked it. So even the negatives that people give you, you got to figure out how to turn it into positive, because prospecting is tough work. This is the tough work of sales. You know, getting face to face with people, making appointments. And how do you do it? Well, you know, there's only so many ways. I mean, there's only so many ways. I mean, years ago, all we had was the phone. Well, we still have the phone. We have text messages. I love text messages, because I'll text somebody and I'll just get them going, and then that'll lead to a call, or that'll lead to me sending them something that'll lead to a call, right? The thing but what happens with those calls and those phone, those interactions, they're kind of with people you know, but they're not in your sphere, or they're not in your they're not in your database yet, probably. So then the big group of people that you don't know, how do you get them? And I am just scratching my head with my own salespeople saying, why are you guys not using social media? Are you kidding me? I mean, I wish I had this back in the 90s. This is crazy stuff. I can't believe it. I can't believe I didn't have it, but I didn't. But I made up my own, by the way. I made up a bunch of memes, and I'm still gonna try and get back to my slides, because the memes are kind of funny at the end. But I made up these memes, and I would put them in a newspaper, and it helped me get the ball going. So anyway, I didn't have social media, but I have it today. So when I have the memes today, and I have social media today, I take full use of it. So if you see my name anywhere, like you may see it because I think I might have found the slide. Hey, there you go. Can you see that now? So you'll see my name, and if you see me on social media, you'll see what I'm talking about. Social media with video is deadly. It is deadly. The interaction is just continuous. So I'm always, every week, getting new prospects just because I'm making a post on. I only use 4 platforms: LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. But I have several Facebook pages, so it depends. You got to do that. I mean, is that the end of the world? No. Is that everything? No. I mean, I love networking events because I go to one event and I probably come away with 10, 15, 20 names sometimes. I love group involvements. I have a networking group I go to every 2 weeks. I've been doing it for over 20 some years since I moved to this town. I'm living in a town today that I didn't do my business in. I did all my business in another town, moved to this town, and then started a brokerage, started more training and coaching. I still do sales, but it's not as intense as I used to. But being in this group, I mean, this is crazy. This group, I'm in every 2 weeks, you have a meeting. I've been there for 20 some years. I average out of that group. I've done the math, between $50,000 and $70,000 a year in commissions. What do? I go have breakfast with everybody. Hang out, we share ideas, we share business tips and leads. That's all it's about. It's just a business networking group. It's called Executive Association. It's kind of like the highest level of business networking groups, better, a little higher up than BNI, and major cities have them. It's called Executive Association. If you ever get into one of those, you're dealing with the top business leaders in that area. So being in groups is a great way, right? So once you decide, okay, the ball's rolling, I'm getting my prospects, I got my email, I got all kinds of things happening. That leading me to have meetings. Now that's when you realize, all of us, I mean, that's kind of how Maria and I met. Maria and I realized at some point in our life, we need more skills. So Raj is on the line. He knows us from John Maxwell as well. We decided we better take some training, right? We better get ourselves around experts, expert coaches, expert speakers, improve what we're doing. And I'll tell you what, I used to be a Dale Carnegie instructor years ago. And I learned a lot of things from being a Dale Carnegie instructor. And one of the things I learned from them, because those guys, that's what they do all the time. They're just teaching classes all the time, and I got involved. Did you know that when you stand in front of a group of people, you make a presentation, the majority of people in that room are thinking, you're smarter than they are. You're not smarter than they are, but they're thinking that. And the reason they're thinking that is because they're not sure. Most people are hesitant to get up in front of a group and speak. So speaking in public is a great way to add people. You do presentations, you do, opportunities come up, you say, I'll do it, clubs, whatever. And then if you start doing seminars, free seminars, you do free seminars to help whatever group you work with, do seminars. I used to do 2 seminars a year when I was in selling real estate. 2 seminars a year, one in the spring, one in the fall, one in the spring, one in the fall. And the amount of leads I got from those in terms of people leads, right? Mind-boggling. I mean, just to give you an idea, it's not to brag, but just to give you an idea. I lived in a town with about 12 to 14,000 people, more or less. When I started there, it was about 10,000. When I left, it was about 18,000. A very small town. I lived in this town, and I had 1,000 people in my database. That's crazy, right? So what happens is wherever I went, people knew who I was, and the seminars helped a lot. Now, one of the skills is really hard for salespeople. Really hard. I have a coach that I work with. Raj knows him, Marie knows him. He's probably the best coaches in the world. His name is Christian Simpson. Christian will tell us all that it's not about sales, it's about coaching. Matter of fact, he'll say, folks, selling is coaching. Now, traditionally, we like to think of salesmen like the guy down at the car dealership. He tells us everything. He knows everything, tells us everything. Real salespeople that are coaches, they ask the customer so many questions, they tell them so much less, and then what they tell them is right at the crux of his issue. And he begins to respond. I use something, I've used it for years. It's called a needs analysis. And I use it with clients. And in the needs analysis, I ask them a series of questions in different sections. And basically what I'm doing is I'm trying to flush out what's important to them. They tell me what's important to them. And then I close by saying, look, if I can help you accomplish this, what would that mean to you? It's a great concept. I was with a couple once years ago, and what was significant about it was I got invited to come and list a home in the town I lived in. But what was different about this home is if I sold this home, it would have been the highest sale of a residential property in that town ever. So you can imagine the kind of mindset, the kind of people. He's a big CEO and it's the longest presentation I ever did. Matter of fact, I started at night, came back the next morning because we couldn't get done. Too many questions. When I got there the next day and we were going to wrap it up. I said to her, I said, Bonnie, I said the same question. I said, Bonnie, if we get this accomplished, what will this mean to you? And a lot of times when I ask that question, I'll prep them up and I'll say, hey, folks, do me a favor. It's really hard for the guys, but the women are easier. Because women are smarter and got more intuition, right? So I say, close your eyes. I said, close your eyes and say, I want you to think in your mind. The home is sold. What can you see? She didn't even miss a beat. Within seconds, she says, Ray, I see myself sitting on my rocker, my rocking bench on my deck in my new home in the other city where they're moving. And she says, I have this sense of relief, like so much was accomplished. We built this house, now we moved, whatever. I said, thank you. With that information, the house is sold. I'm going to bring that up. The first offer we had sold the house. Was there some struggles? I said, yeah. I said, Bonnie, here's the deal. We're not going to get you the price you thought you were going to get. I mean, this is insane. This is unbelievable. The offer we accept is going to be the highest sale ever. I know it's not as high as you wanted. Say they accepted the offer. Guess why? She had a definite major purpose. She had a definite major purpose for selling that house. It was to get to the other city, build the other house. And when people know their definite major purpose, it is amazing what happens to them, to you as a salesperson. So my time's, I don't want to be here all day, but you got to have fun. So I thought I'd show you some of my fun things I did while I was selling real estate. This was in the 90s. I didn't have social media, so I made my own. I made jokes. I made people laugh. That's probably one of the best things you can do in your reaching out to people and make yourself, you know what? My buddy John Maxwell says, why don't you become the brunt of all the jokes? People like laughing at you. They don't like you laughing at them. I used to make this brochure every year, put it on every home. Because back once I was in the zone, I was selling over 100 properties a year, sometimes 150 a year in a small town. I used to make a map and put a dot on it, and I'd make a brochure out of it. I put it in the paper, but I made a nice brochure and dropped it in everybody's mailbox. Made the month of January go like hotcakes, listing all kinds of stuff, right? I got a lot of traction, a lot of fun with this. I was showing a home one day. These people had this is a beautiful dog. And I thought to myself, I got to do something with this dog, right? So I got him to take a picture, and then finally I came up with, if you're going to brag on yourself, it has to be indirect. You can't brag on yourself directly. You got to brag on yourself indirectly. So I came up with this little thing, trustworthy and dependable. So is the dog. Sometimes when you come up with these memes or things you do on social media, you can get yourself in trouble. So back in the, anybody remember the Ray Charles's Pepsi Cola ads? Remember those?
Mhm.
So I thought I'm going to imitate Ray Charles. So I did. Threw it in the paper. The very next day on the, the talk show, all the people driving into work, this comes up on the talk show. And I mean, I just put it in the paper, and now I'm getting all this free press on the radio. And I don't have the people that are talking, but this one lady gets on, and she is just upset with me. She's upset with me. She goes, she's telling the host, I'm not on the show, I'm just listening. And she's going on, and finally the guy who's running the show says, well, he says, man, he said, I don't know Ray, I've never met him. He said, I see his stuff. He said, but I've never met him. But he said, if you're not upset that Ray's making fun of blind people, go down, go see him. So she did. She made an appointment. She came in and saw me. I met her in my office. Keep in mind, this is like mid 90s. We don't have the technology we have today. So she comes in. She is upset. So I quickly thought, in Canada, we have this organization called the Canadian National CNIB, Canadian National Institute for the Blind. You probably have something like that in the States too. So I looked it up in the yellow pages. I put it on speakerphone. I dialed them. I said, look, I'm going to dial CNIB. I didn't have a way of sending the picture. This is back in the day. But we'll describe it to the lady at CNIB. So we described it to the lady at CNIB. And I said, whatever she says, I'll go by it. I'll follow her lead. Well, the lady on the other line of the line, I got lucky, I guess. In sales, we need luck, don't we? I got lucky, and she started laughing. She said, I think Ray Charles would be flattered if you used this ad. So all I'm saying is, to wrap up, I mean, that's it. If you could figure out your definite major purpose and drill that in. If you have trouble, all my stuff's here. I don't mind having another call. I don't mind having a text message, a little conversation. Because if I help you with that and you drive that into your subconscious, your work plan of action is going to happen. And your work plan of action will actually wake you up, keep you going, and some days you can't even shut it off. It'll bring you all the prospects you need, get you all the presentations you need. That's when you realize, when you're doing lots of presentations, you don't get them all. Anybody that gets them all isn't good. You just haven't done enough people, right? When you start losing something, you go, you know what? I better talk to Marie. I better figure out where do I go to get some skill improvement? Where do I get better at saying it? Where do I get better at asking it? There you go. Thoughts, questions?
Well, thank you so much, Ray, for sharing your phone number and your email. We have a couple of members that could not make it today. They were, work stuff came up, and they're usually on. And they asked if I could record this. So they're really going to appreciate you sharing your contact information because they are our sales professionals. But I totally agree with you with the subconscious mind, because the way the brain works is your autonomic nervous system. Like, you don't have to think about your heartbeat. You don't have to think about your heart rate. You don't have to think about breathing. You automatically breathe. So when you drive a goal into your subconscious mind, you're an autopilot. You know what your goal is. You're automatically taking action to accomplish that goal because you're rewiring your brain. And what that happens is, and I've showed a video before, and I don't have it available right now, but I've showed it when I've spoken before. I've got a really cool video. And maybe, Ray, I don't know if you've seen it. I know, Glenn, you've seen it because you've heard me speak. But I've got this really cool video a doctor gave me of the neurons making the connections. And when it's not a solid connection, it just like goes away, like it dissipates. So like, you have a thought, oh, I forgot that thought. Oh, never mind, right? It goes away. That's why they said when you have an important thought and it's like, well, it's a great idea. You should write it down so that you can remember it. So when you write something down and it becomes part of and you repeat it, like you said, you actually make that connection. And so we actually have video of neurons making those connections and sticking and actually locking in. And it becomes part of your subconscious mind. So this isn't woo woo. This isn't like, oh, whatever. This is new age. It actually does happen. I am a Christian. So in the Bible, it actually says, watch what your thoughts are, because your thoughts become, like it talks about, what you say is actually coming from your heart. It's coming from your mind. And that's because you've already programmed your mind to say certain things or do certain things. And so you can actually do that and work and use the skill sets that you're sharing with us and use them to your advantage. So I just want to say thank you. And I just wanted to share a little bit about that, because it's really cool how the brain does work. And like you said, the brain is your most valuable asset.
You mentioned something earlier, well, throughout your message, which is right out of Think and Grow Rich, one of my favorite books, the importance of a major definite purpose. Could you relate how your major definite purpose has possibly helped you when adversity strikes, which Napoleon Hill has one of my favorite quotes: with every adversity, there's a seed of hope with the equivalent or even greater benefit. Could you share one of the adversities that maybe you had to overcome?
Well, for sure. First of all, one of the adversities we have to overcome on a daily basis is rejection.
Amen.
Not everybody is going to go, oh, well, Ray, thanks for coming by. Sure not. Thanks for coming knocking on my door. Thanks for the phone call. Not everybody's going to do that. But probably the major one I had was there was nobody in my family that had ever done anything like this. So overcoming the fact that my mom wasn't jumping up and down. My mom's one of those folks from old school back in the day. She was born close to I think she was born in 1915. She had it in her head, how people were programmed a certain way, your grandparents, parents, whatever. She thought, Ray, you should become a doctor. So when I didn't gravitate to becoming a doctor, I can't be any good, right? And I endured just lots of criticism, from your own mom. It's kind of tough. Finally, one day, my mom used to live in a different city, so she lived in Toronto. I'd moved out west, and one day she came to visit. This is probably, I'd already been in the business a good 15 years and was very successful. She came to visit, and she brings this thing up again every time, right? You should have become a doctor. And I just said to her, I said, Mom, I said, I know all the doctors in town. Some of them are my clients. I said, can I tell you something? She goes, what? I said, I make more than all the doctors. You think that even impressed my mother? No. It wasn't about the money, about the prestige, right? It's about her being able to say to her friends, my son's a doctor, he's a surgeon, he's a whatever. But getting over, you can take criticism from a lot of people. I always say to myself every day when I'm prepping myself and I'm having calls, meetings, whatever, I always say to myself, you know what? And sometimes I tell people, I say, hey, I don't have to be hard sell. I don't. Because if you're not interested, it doesn't turn your crank what I'm sharing. I know this for a fact. When I get home, my wife loves me. I'm like Jim Rohn. I can feel her arms around me all the time.
Mm-hmm.
My kids love me. I have 2 grandkids. They love me. I feel their hugs all the time. So whether you buy what I'm offering or not, it's really up to you. It's not gonna make my day one way or the other. Of course, if I make a sale, I feel better. But at the end of the day, I come home to a house of love.
I love that you shared that. I met your wife. Your wife is beautiful. I love that you shared that, because that is another key component. You've got to have that peace in the home. You've got to have that love. And that is the absolute most important thing to be successful in sales. Because if you don't have that, yeah. So thank you for sharing that.
Is it Glenn? Glenn,
Yes.
Glenn, this thing about my wife, my wife does not accept everything I say. Usually when I have an idea or I have a new thing I'm going to do, I tell her about it. I've never once had her go, good plan, Ray. Never once. I give her all the information and she's critical and that's how she's wired, right? That's her personality. She's an SC. I'm a DI, if you know the disc personality. So she's always critical, which is good because that helps me refine what I'm doing. But I can tell you this, I've not done anything ever and been successful at it, that at some point along the way, she saw it. And now she's supportive. Is she supportive with her mouth? No. Does she tell anybody, Ray's got a good thing going there, you guys should listen? No, never, none of that. But when you feel the support of your spouse, it's power. Patsy and I met in high school last year. This year we'll be celebrating 53 years. How about that?
Congratulations.
Thank you. Well, I'm married to a saint. I married William. Okay, William.
Barbara D., maybe you have a comment or a question.
I do have a question, Ray. Thank you
Yes, ma'am.
so much for sharing everything today. Back to what you were saying about DMP, definite major purpose, right? Heard that basically the same concept described so many different ways, but it does boil down to, knowing your purpose and focusing on that. And for myself and my clients, sometimes that's not easy to identify or narrow down.
100%.
So I wondered if you had any ideas on the best way to get to that DMP.
The best way that I know, I mean, I'm not saying it's the only way, is there are several people usually people that have a DMP can identify what one is and what one isn't. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes people will come up with something and I look at them and I say, seriously? That's your definite major purpose? You need to work at this because that won't keep you. Glenn made a good point. The point he made was this has to be strong enough. It has to be big enough. It's not I'm going to conquer the world. Then that'd be that big. But it's got to be big enough that the slightest thing doesn't throw you off. So it's got to have a little muscle. It's got to have a little juice. And so if you have a group of people, I'm sure this is one thing I'm confident of. I'm confident of all the abilities God gave us. We're unbelievable. We're not trees. You get that same group of people together and say, let's just share. We don't have to even identify our names. We can write our DMPs on pieces of paper, throw them in a thing, and everybody goes around and say, I think that's one, or I think this one needs to be tweaked. And you know what I'm saying? And then you may tweak 2 or 3, and then the rest of them have to go back and work on it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Just keep working on it
Just keep working on it. I mean, if you need to shoot me a text or send me an email, that's why I put myself up there. I'm happy to say, you know what? I think we should tweak that.
Okay.
We got to tweak that. We got to dig that a little deeper. Or else it's not going to get into your subconscious mind. It's not going to mean enough, and it's not going to be a big enough thing that's going to hold you through the pain.
What question would you start asking yourself to get to that?
So the questions that I like to go start with myself is, if I do this, whatever it is, what do I want to accomplish? Because my definite major purpose, once I decide to write it down, it's not going to happen overnight. So it's a bit of a process, right, to get to success. What is it that I want to accomplish? Now, for some people, they may be a bit embarrassed. Do I want to say this out loud? You know what I'm saying? Like I was embarrassed years later when some of my buddies told me, Ray, you told us this. I'm like, oh my goodness. I didn't say that, did I? I was embarrassed then. I can't even believe I said it, but I'd driven it so far into my subconscious, it just came out of my mouth.
Ray, we
Yes,
have a
ma'am.
request if you can share your phone number and email, please.
Oh yeah. I got that figured out now, don't I? Bring the screen back up.
I'm putting it in the chat. I'm putting it in the chat.
Thank
Yeah,
you, Marilyn.
You're welcome.
David, you're new to the program. If you're still with us and have your mic on, do you have a question that you'd like to ask or a comment you'd like to make?
there it is, right on the screen.
I've got one, Glenn.
Yes.
So I'm driving. I apologize. I try not to be too distracted. Not to make you repeat yourself, Ray, on the major definite purpose, but maybe just to drive the point home a little further. I attend a lot of real estate meetups and things of that sort, and networking groups and goal setting groups, and everybody's talking about, oh, I want 100 million net worth in the bank, and that's great. I mean, I'm sure you'd be able to do a lot of stuff with that, but honestly, I just think it would be great to optimize my life. And to me, sometimes that feels like an arduous, infinite, impossible goal in itself. Just to get the back end of my business, digital workflow management set up, proper marketing, proper savings and investment, child rearing, bookkeeping, taxes. I mean, if I just had all that in one sock, I would feel like I'd accomplished a major definite purpose. But that's small time stuff. How do you take that from getting these stuck in the minutia of the everyday menial tasks to taking that bird's eye view again and not having to keep coming down and baby stepping it, which takes years and forever.
So I always I use this term all the time. It's called back engineering. I always like to back engineer everything. So the idea about having 100 million bank? What's wrong with that? Nothing wrong with that, is there? However, that's not going to happen as a result of what you do this year. That's going to happen, if it happens, it's going to happen as a result of many, many years of doing something right. So when I back engineer that statement, or whatever statement that's huge like that, I like to back engineer it not to a dollar amount, but to a certain number of transactions. What I found is that as humans, I can get my head around doing a certain number of whatever. How do I get my head around a certain number of dollars? Because in business, in sales, I mean, yes, there's probably some sales where every sale you get paid the same amount, but even then you get it back to numbers. In our business, in the real estate world that I've been in for almost 40 years, I mean, I did something the other day for a client. It was a couple of grand. I'm thinking to myself, why am I doing this? Well, because she's a good client. I'm here to serve. Would I rather done something for 25, 30, 40? Of course. Of course. So, but at the end of the day, if I do a certain number of transactions consistently, and I take averages and I multiply by the averages, I'm going to have the numbers I need annually. If I do all the things you just finished saying, and have delegate people to help you. I got to interrupt and say my mentor, John Maxwell, says, I knew this, but John just driven it into my head. It's almost like he's talking to me when he says, it's almost like he ignores everybody in the room and he says, Ray, I don't know why you're thinking you're good at 6 things. He says, I don't even know if you're good at 1. And you may be good at 2. So once you realize that, it sets you free. I've been set free. I do 2 things. And everything else, I got people doing it. I didn't build these slides. I got on the phone with my assistant. I sent her a few emails last night. She whipped it together for me. Do I know how to build slides? Probably. Would it take me an hour or two to do it? Probably. Took her a few minutes. Don't do everything. Do what you're good. If you figure out what you're good at, and you marry that to your
Well,
definition
I think another one of the struggles that a lot of small business owners experience when attempting to take that next step and then yes, let's delegate some of these smaller tasks. You're trying to do it on a shoestring budget, so you may not have the best talent, or you've got a admin type person that's doubling as another thing. And you got to feed them so much information, you end up winding up saying, well, if I've got to do this much of the legwork, I may as well just do it myself. And
but don't feel bad. Everybody else in your position has the same excuse, including me. But at the end of the day, it's not the right thing. The right thing is do what you are good and gifted at one or two things. You can make that into world class. The stuff that you're trying to figure out, you'll never be good at it. You'll be lucky if you're ever average. Let somebody else do it.
Agreed.
The one or two things you are good at that God gave you, that is your gift, develop that. It'll pay you dividends, buddy.
Thank you. And happy anniversary.
Thank you. Coming up in July. We got to figure out where we're going. We always have to go somewhere.
Raj, do you have a question or a comment?
It was incredible as usual, Ray. I mean, the things that you said are all the things that we do know. But it is a reminder that is needed from time to time to make sure that you are, and because you are right, life catches up, you get off course, and it happens with everyone. And the way you put it together was just wonderful, just beautiful. Hitting things together, one at a time, exactly what is needed. Did I know all of them? I would say yes. Am I following all of them? No. Would I follow all of them? Yes, I'm going to make it a practice now. So from my perspective, it was really, really wonderful getting back to knowing and understanding. And then your stories that connected are just incredible. And I have known Ray for now so many years and respect him so much with all that he has done and he poured and shared. So thank you for that. That's what I would say. Thank you. And one other thing which I would say, I was working on a small program and you were talking about the thoughts and things. And I said, everybody has 50 to 70,000 thoughts or more every single day. And they say, change your thoughts and you can change your life, which is very correct. The problem is we are having the same thoughts every single day, or most of the thoughts, which are very same. So that is one of the things that if you start thinking on a different tangent and get your vibration at a different level, that can make a huge difference in life. So thank you.
Thanks, Raj. Good to see you.
Same here.
I'll probably follow up with you because you and I were talking about something else.
Yes, I know. I have to follow up with you. Exactly. Yeah.
We've only got a couple of minutes left. George Fuller, do you have a quick question or comment?
Yeah, sure. First of all, sorry for joining late. I was with a client that scheduled with very short notice, but anyway, so what is one of your favorite, and now you're very successful. I looked at your website briefly, and what was what activities led to your success, do you think?
Well, I would say the activity is that I worked the plan of action. So by working the plan of action, I mean, in the early days, I used to tell myself things like, I used to tell my wife, breakfast, lunch, I'm with clients, supper, I'm always home. I'm always home for supper. But then when I left the house, I mean, I like to go for a coffee break, don't you? I like to go for lunch, don't you? So when I start in the morning, I am not getting a coffee break unless it's with a client. That was my, those are the kind of things I would have to say to myself. I'm not even going to eat unless I don't eat by myself and I don't drink coffee by myself. So right out of the gate, I have to accomplish at least 3 meetings where I'm going to get coffee and lunch. So I got to get on the phone if I want to eat. So once you start working the plan of action, then all of a sudden you have more appointments than you know what to do. Matter of fact, I got to the point in my life where I'm there now, where if I have an appointment for coffee in the morning and I have another meeting booked, I've learned over the years to book them all in the same coffee shop. If I can. Cuts down on travel, gets me more FaceTime. I've had situations where I show up in the coffee shop, I have 2 or 3 meetings, I have lunch. Sometimes I leave, sometimes I got another meeting coming right after. The waitresses are my best buddies. They love me because they're getting tipped on everything, right? So the secret is just getting the plan of action worked and getting in front of people. If you're in front of people, taking names, making contacts, put them in a system. Every time I have a contact, it's sent to my assistant. In the database, they're on the drip. You've got to have that back end system working for you. The back end, that's why the weekly emails with the little video clips, I mean, it's gold. Matter of fact, if you've been to my website, if your website doesn't talk, fix it. Fix your website if it doesn't talk.
Oh, you have a video?
Nobody, wake up, folks. Nobody wants to read your website. I don't know how great it is. Nobody's interested. People are not interested. In North America, anyway. In North America, people are not interested. And if you go to my particular website, you'll notice that I'm answering 2 or 3 questions. I'm trying to figure out what they want, how I can get it to them. I have it in the video, and then I have a button where they can connect with me. So it's strategic. But the most strategic part of the thing that I've had for years is I've been telling people for years, do not have a website that doesn't talk. And the talking person is you. Then the second thing I tell them is you got to have digital brochures. I have a digital brochure. If you text me, just text that number and say, Ray, send me your digital brochure. I'll do it. I type 2 letters into the response. The brochure is buried behind the 2 letters. Boom, you'll have it.
Wow.
That brochure, I'm on the phone with people from time to time, many times. We're talking about their property and they want to, perhaps I'm going to meet with them. By the time they hang up the phone, the brochure is in front of them. They're like, what the heck? How did you do that so quickly? We're in this instant world where people want stuff instantly. If you're still doing stuff that we did 20 years ago, there's younger, smarter, sharper guys going to eat your lunch.
Ray, I like one thing you were talking about is you've got so many meetings before you allow yourself to have a cup of coffee, etc. Reminds me of something Bob Proctor said. You need to be sitting with a client by 9 o'clock in the morning. And I think he used that with an insurance company to break records for that in sales in a particular insurance company. They did what they said couldn't be done. Hey, it's 4 minutes after. Is there anyone else that fits right in with something that Ray was talking about with major definite purpose that Napoleon Hill talks about, a burning desire? Is there anyone with a burning desire to share a thought or ask Ray a quick question?
Hi, Marilyn here. I just want to say thank you so much for your presentation. There were so many different aspects to it that for us to review and think about and reflect on. And I love the way you spoke about how you go home to a house of love and how you spoke about your wife. And congratulations for that beautiful relationship that you have, because I always say it's not the love of power, but the power of love. And that's something that you certainly demonstrate. And it's very much appreciated. And I also love the way you broke it down with the acronyms, like with the desire, the burning desire, and the PMA, which is something that I always talk to my students about when I work with the youth. And I tell them that the formula to success is PMA, and they always remember that. And it was so nice to see it in social media. They would make that a wall on their on their social media profile, PMA, which is positive mental attitude, because the negativity will drain our energy and will slow down the process toward our goals and our dreams and desires. So thank you so much for such a wonderful presentation.
Thank you. You guys are most kind. Happy to join you. And Marie, back to you.
Thank you so much, Ray. You did an amazing presentation. It is so, so good. And thank you for allowing us to record it. I'll send you a copy, and I'll go ahead and share this with members who were not able to make it.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day. Maybe I'll hear from some of you. Talk soon.
Goodbye.
Thank
Thanks
you.
again, Ray.
Take care.
Absolutely amazing.
Take care.
Thank
God
you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.